Hi, I'm so glad to be back with you today as promised, and we're going to start talking to you about what I call the ABCs of relationships. So today's topic is awareness and authenticity, the A of the ABCs. The gift of awareness is amazing, and there's so many different aspects to it. One of the greatest gifts of awareness is that it's sort of like that internal wise energy that helps us realize when we're about to take a step or say something that's not in alignment with our spiritual self. It's that quiet, or sometimes not so quiet, kick in the butt that says, don't go there. Awareness also allows you to stand back and hear another person's perspective from a place of curiosity instead of judgment. It keeps you out of your ego and into curiosity so that you're better able to see all sides of the story or take in a new perspective that you might not be aware of and stay open to all the possibilities and probabilities. Awareness opens your mind and gets you out of your limited thinking and judgment that we've learned from our families and from society. I remember when I began on this path and I was in an intuitive studies class, and the teacher asked us to do something which at first we all thought was really ridiculous. We were sitting in a room with white walls, white ceiling, white doors, and the teacher asked us to tell him how the room was blue. Well, we all looked at each other quizzically as if to say, he's nuts, right? What he was asking us to do is think out of the box. So we thought about it a bit, and then somebody said, I think the room is blue because I'm feeling sad this morning. And somebody else said, the room is blue because that blue lamp over there is reflecting blue against the wall. And somebody else said, I think it's blue because we're all talking, and the blue is the chakra of the throat, talking. To my amazement, 25 people went around that room describing all the reasons why this white room was blue, and it was. The point was to begin to expand our consciousness. He was asking us to become aware of more than just what was obvious. We limit ourselves when we make snap judgments about people and situations without having all the facts. Let me give you an example. I remember years ago in California, a couple of women came in to see me. One was dressed in a professional-looking suit, looking like a successful attorney or accountant, and the other was wearing blue jeans, low on her hips, with a big leather belt and a t-shirt. So I took a breath and asked them why they had come in to see me. And the client in the suit said that she had noticed lately that her partner was becoming more angry. And the other day she had actually pushed her hard and she was becoming afraid of her. I looked at her partner, who was looking down at the floor, avoiding eye contact, and I asked, are you really feeling more angry? She looked up and kind of scowled at me, and then she looked down at the floor for a few seconds in silence. And I said, I know you don't know me, but it's okay to feel and say whatever you want to say here. You're safe, and nothing you tell me will ever leave this room. She seemed to soften a bit. She took a deep breath and began to tell me how she'd grown up in a very poor ghetto-like part of town. When she was 9, her dad had killed her mother right in front of her in a drunken rage. Tearfully, she admitted she had never talked to anybody about it before. You and I can never really know what the people around us have gone through and why they are the way they are. And too often, before we even find out, we've already judged them. Awareness helps us remember to take a breath, slow down, wait to discover who that person really is before we decide who they are. And to make matters worse, people are becoming more disconnected by the day because of all the use of electronics. We are missing the deep connections with each other. When people get emotionally disconnected, they need more stimulation, and that's why the level of addiction is going up and increasing in outrageous numbers. It's another reason why we have to get back to making connections and relationships a priority no matter with whom or where, so long as they are loving. One of my favorite questions when meeting a new client or a friend before I make any judgments or decide anything about the person is I ask myself, what don't I know? There is so much more in this world that we don't know than what we think we do. We need to slow down, get back to what really matters and what's meaningful, and have meaningful connections that are filled with respect and caring for each other. It's about feeding our souls and our character at least as much as we feed our stock portfolios and our bank accounts. There used to be a time when you had to be in the spiritual closet if you were conscious. Today, no matter where you go or who you're with, everybody's talking about the fact that we are literally on the brink of going one of two ways. We're either going to bump up into greater consciousness or we're off into oblivion. And we are desperately in need of a new level of awareness. That new level is here. I started teaching spirituality in the 70s, and when the internet arrived, there were less than 250 sites dealing with anything spiritual. Today, for this session, I stopped counting when I got to 403,300,000 sites having to do with spirituality, consciousness, awareness, and integrity. The problems we're dealing with in our country and in our world are actually great teachers for us. In some cases, they're here showing us who we do not want to be and what we do not want to do. And in other cases, they're here showing us who we do want to become. But you need to be aware that you are in consciousness school to get the message. And this new level of energy and awareness is making spiritual growth and creating grace in all of our relationships more central and critical to our lives than ever before. Why? Because it's telling us that if we're going to survive, we need to stand up and be our best selves. It's actually asking us to tell the truth, act with compassion and love, stop the silly hatred and division, and heal or we will not make it. It's the only thing that ensures our survival on this planet. Stop for a minute and think about that, and you will know it's true. You know it's true already, even before I told you. If we don't get to a place soon where we connect with each other with honesty, respect, and compassion, the truth is we're going to destroy ourselves on this planet. So if you sincerely want to change the planet, your family, your life, you can, and you start with the person sitting right across from you right now or at any given moment. That person is your master teacher. You start by getting curious and asking open-ended questions like, say more about that. Talk about that feeling. Say that to me differently so I can understand it better. These are techniques we're going to cover in the communication segment, but you need to stay curious. I love that we're seeing huge groups of people standing up for what they believe, but we really don't have to get out and start a movement to do that, because as simplistic as it sounds, the answer is sitting right across from you right now. The person you have breakfast with or sit across from in the office, for instance, what don't you know about him or her? What can you share about yourself that could create a connection that's meaningful? What compliment might you give? What support can you offer? That doesn't mean I don't want you to join a movement if you can, and please march for me because I'm too old. But the moment you get it, this concept of being awake, aware, and having compassion, and you begin to live it, you have already changed the world in a much bigger way than you can even imagine. You have brought the frequency in your part of the world back into harmony and love. Consciousness. Now imagine what the world would be like if we were all doing that. The best place to practice waking up is in our relationships. It's the best teacher on the planet. The most important point here is that changing our planet is about me changing me and you changing you, one moment at a time. That accumulative energy rises up and changes everything because, as Einstein says, like energy draws like energy. It's contagious. Like smiles and laughter, it becomes grace and compassion. It opens our hearts and opens our minds. I know that sounds simplistic, but truly the energy of consciousness has been proven to circle the earth faster than the speed of light. Everyone is aware that there's some sacred gift waiting in the center of relationships, but at the same time we are terrified. The secret is that place you are hurt, those places you hold inside that are in pain, are the very same places that you care so deeply. So when you're avoiding the pain in relationships, you're also avoiding the healing and the gifts from it. You will never be happier than when you're living on your purpose and your path. This is what you came here to do, and everyone in your life is a master teacher, even those people you think are big horses, patoots on the planet. And we have a bunch of those right now. Yep. Those folks are here as our teachers, helping us learn how to respond with awareness and compassion, as you learn to set good boundaries for yourself, one of which may be to avoid some of those folks altogether. The fact that everyone is your teacher doesn't mean you stay with someone who hurts you. What I mean by that is, if you've been hurt, you don't decide never to do relationships again. It's the very thing you probably want most. You just do them differently. You decide to learn. You decide to have compassion. You decide to listen differently. And here's a big tip. The fastest way out of pain is right through the center of it. Too many of us fear feeling pain, so we sit with it inside until it festers and controls our actions and literally controls our life. We become like little pincushions. We avoid anything or anyone that might remind us of our pain until truly we are finally alone. It's like people who have had a head-on collision in an intersection. They'll drive clear across town to avoid getting near that intersection again. I've asked clients, have you ever had a meal that made you sick? Most of us have, and none of us have ever decided we would never eat again because of it. Get the point? You can invite the pain in. You can sit with it. You can honor it. You can breathe through it. You can hurt for an hour or 30 minutes, or you can continue to hurt for the rest of your life. It's your choice. Which brings me to another truth. Fear is nothing more than a feeling. It cannot kill you. Hear this because that's extremely important. Fear is nothing more than a feeling. In 40 years of counseling, I have never lost a client to a fear or a feeling. But not feeling it might kill you because it may manifest in your body or in your mind as an illness if you don't heal it. When fear arises, ask yourself, what is this feeling? Is it a fact or is it just a feeling? If it's a feeling, you can breathe it out. You can decide to deal with it when it's safe enough to do so. Or if it's a fact, in that moment, you can decide what action you need to take. Let me tell you a story about someone named Ram Dass. You may have heard of him. He was Richard Alpert. He was a professor at Harvard, and he discovered LSD. For the longest time in his family, his father was quite abusive, and so he was in therapy a lot for years. And then as he grew in his awareness through all of his travels into altered states of consciousness, he decided he was going to go study with a guru. Well, one of the things he said in many of his books later was that when he was a young child, his fears would come up into the room and they would go, "Whoa!" and he would hover in the corner in fear. And as he grew in his awareness, he learned to invite those fears in. He would say, "Come on in, have a seat, let's have tea." And then he would say, "What are you here to teach me? Why have you come?" And in his mind, he would have this conversation, and before you know it, the fear was resolved. The majority of our fear comes from the past. It's connected to a feeling you had as a child. It can feel overwhelming because it was overwhelming when you were a child, but that's not true now because it's not a now feeling. Invite it in, sit on a couch with it, and ask, "Why are you here? What do you want to teach me?" And then listen. Your inner wisdom will give you the answer. If it's just a feeling, you can write about it, talk about it, and talk into a tape recorder, process it with a friend or a therapist, but make a commitment to process it out. Often just breathing into it, wherever it is in your body, will be enough. The more fear you hold inside, the less love you're capable of holding and feeling. Love is the most profound energy in the universe, and therefore it's also the most terrifying. So unfortunately, all too often, we leave before the gift arrives. Don't do that to yourself. When you're aware, relationships are the way to bring your real self into existence, a way of finding out who you are. Think about that. How do you know who you are, or even that you exist without another person across from you reflecting that back to you? There is no other way on the planet to discover your true self than in relationship. That's why it's the path to enlightenment. And that's why relationships are critical to your evolution, our evolution. Again, they are the path to enlightenment. Do you understand that truth? Remember what we said in our first session? Relationships are about finding out who you are. They teach you how addicted to sameness you are, how much control you need or are willing to give up. How much do you always need to be right? How vulnerable and truthful are you willing to be? How much of the time are the decisions you make coming from fear rather than courage? When you are connected in relationship, the simple pleasure of being together, actually with anyone, becomes the way that life is allowed to unfold. And out of that miraculous connection comes a third energy, and it unfolds as love. We have been in this craving, this longing and yearning forever. When connection does not arrive, it's painful. And yet sometimes when it does arrive, we run from it. Couples who see me and leave each other inevitably do so because they've lost that special connection. Couples who stay together do so because they've healed that connection with each other, and they feel the sacred gift of their relationship in each other. I believe we remember this incredible calling to deep and meaningful connection from some far past experience, from some amazing experience of total oneness that we once had in this divine experiment. We long for union with ourselves, with each other, and with the consciousness responsible for the evolution of all awareness. Call it whatever you want: God, the divine spirit, nature, the universe, or that tree outside. Whatever you perceive that creative energy to be, can you feel that it is in the center of our connections? And finally, another gift of awareness is that allows you to see clearly what's your stuff and what is the other person's stuff. Helps you take responsibility for your own reality and perceptions without giving your power away by blaming your issues on someone else. When you're aware, you don't make statements like, "You made me feel angry." Here's a headline: no one else ever makes you feel anything. We choose to feel what we feel ourselves. When you blame somebody else for the things you say and do or feeling, you're giving away all of your power and making yourself a victim. So here are the gifts of awareness and authenticity. Awareness and authenticity help you realize when some response you're having is coming from the past rather than the present. Awareness and authenticity tells you when you're not in alignment with your truth or ethics. It tells you when it's time to stand up, speak up, and get back on purpose. Awareness and authenticity is similar to your intuition. It's that internal ethics compass. Awareness and authenticity is similar to mindfulness in that it helps keep us aware of our moral codes and values and lets us know when we're starting to be out of alignment with them. I want to talk about being authentic for a moment. There is no one like you in the universe. No one exactly like you. You came here to be exactly who you are because you are needed. So if you don't show up authentically, no one else can take your place. Hear that. There is a place in the universe that is specifically yours, and if you do not step into it, it remains empty and waiting for you because no one else can take your place. When I first began teaching this topic, people thought I was some crazy person, and they were afraid, simply because they hadn't heard many of the ideas I was teaching. And after they began coming to workshops and seminars, and other people began teaching similar things, they opened their heart and they could feel the truth in all of it. I believe that it is no accident that you are watching this. Some part of your spirit and soul is ready to hear this and begin stepping into your purpose and destiny and making the changes necessary in your family, in your place of work, and in the world to affect positive change. There is always at least one conscious person in every family, every office, every city, everywhere. And you are the one in your world, or you would not be watching this particular series of presentations. So if you're the iffy character in your family like me, who believes in ethics, values, and compassion, just congratulate yourself and don't hesitate or hold back. You chose this before you came. This is what you came here to do. Characters are important in this world. We push at people's edges. We ask them to think. We ask them to look at their judgments and fears. We are important to this process of helping people around the world wake up. So don't hold back and don't apologize or be fearful about being awake. Be compassionate, be kind, celebrate yourself and all of the people in the world who are working with you. In fact, start a discussion group to support each other. I know I could never have done this work over the years I've done without having those who encouraged and believe in me. We need you, so begin to find like-minded people, read books that speak to your soul, and most of all, greet the challenges that come before you with celebration, because the greatest spirits choose the greatest challenges. Why do we do that? Because we came here to push our souls forward. So celebrate yourself. I celebrate you. If you don't currently have a romantic partner, that doesn't matter. If you don't have a spouse, that's okay. Make a commitment with a friend that you feel is on the same path, or do the work with him or her. Print the exercises. Share your new awarenesses. Talk about the changes you experience. Email us, text us, ask questions. Tell us about your exciting changes. Tell us what you want more of. Do the work with anyone you come into contact with, even if you're doing it silently in your own mind and heart for your own sake. But do the work. There is nothing more important right now. Download this week's exercise, the Awareness Inventory, and if you haven't already done it, also download This Is Who I Am from the last session. Remember, it's no accident that you are sitting here listening to this. This is simply a reminder of what you already know and who you already know you are. So, be real, stand in your truth, speak your truth, act and speak with compassion. Do whatever you can do to stop the misuse of power and injustice. And more than anything else, remember that the way the world changes is when you and I can say, we did what we came here to do. Until then, put your hand on your heart and thank yourself for being wise enough and self-loving enough to spend this time with us, waking up together. We look forward to talking with you in our next session when we're going to be talking about the B word, boundaries. See you then.